Thank you for joining us. A little later than normal. It's normally 2 o'clock meeting, but we're now starting at 3 o'clock. Can I welcome everybody to the meeting of the overview and scrutiny of the 6th of February 2025. Item 1 will be, item 1, apologies for absence. So we have apologies from Councillor Ben Cooper, who I think might be teaming in if he's available too. But we will need a vice chair for this meeting. So I would like to propose Councillor Eadie. Do I have a seconder?
Yes.
Yeah. That was very quick.
Very enthusiastic.
How much have you paid him? Right, okay, so we are live streaming. So if anybody out there, welcome. We now go to the minutes of the meeting held on the 21st of November. And to agree the Live West...
And the 5th of December.
I was going to do that second, if that's okay. To agree the Live West recommendation. Is everybody happy with that? Can everybody remember it? No, I wasn't here. So, is everybody happy to accept that recommendation? Was that a yes? So, is everybody happy to accept that recommendation? Do I have a proposer?
Yeah, I was about to ask Chairman whether it requires a proposer, seconder, etc. But yes, I'm happy to propose.
Proposer, seconder. All those in favour? Yeah, okay. So I'm now going to go to the meeting on the 5th of December 2024 as a true and correct record. Is everybody happy with that? Yeah. Yeah. Show of hands. Yeah, okay. The Overview and Scrutiny Committee recommend that the lead executive member for Housing, Environmental Health... Oh, done that. Okay. Right. Declarations of interest? No? No declarations of interest. Okay. To the best of my knowledge, there are no urgent items. Amelia, is there anything? No. And to the best of my knowledge also, there is no need to... Oh, sorry.
Apologies, Chair. I realise we've just done the minutes and accepted them, but there was obviously from the meeting on the 21st November quite a few actions regarding South West Water. Will we come back to those in the task and finish group update? Is that okay? Fabulous. Thank you.
Yes. So, item 5, there's no reason to divide the agenda. Item 6, to the best of my knowledge, again, there was no members of the public raised any questions. No. So we go straight into item 7. Can we welcome Becky, our CSP manager? Thank you very much for being with us. We've known each other for many years over the years. And Ian Luscombe, thank you very much. And the Community Safety Partnership report, which is on page 15 and going on to page 30. So, Becky, the floor is yours.
Chair, may I just say that Councillor Rake gave his apologies. He is the lead member for the Community Safety Partnership, but he was unable to make it today due to urgent family business.
Okay, so we accept his apologies. So, Becky, now the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, members, and it's lovely to meet some new members too, as well as working with members that I've worked with for many years now. Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you this afternoon. I do appreciate you've got a really busy and tight agenda, so I'm not going to go over the report in loads of detail, just pick out a couple of highlights. But the other thing I just want to make clear is we have already done a briefing, we've already done overview and scrutiny at West Devon, and members there wanted more time to have a proper discussion, particularly for new members to learn more about how the partnership works. So they requested that we had a members briefing. So we have set that up in anticipation that that might be useful for some of you because of the amount of time that you will have in today's agenda. So that is already set for the 27th of February at 3 o'clock. So I just wanted you to be minded of that before I go through the report. So in relation to the background of the report, the Community Safety Partnership is established across Tunbridge, South Hams and West Devon, and there's some more context for you in section 2. The important bit around the reason that we come to overview and scrutiny in kind of January and February is because in March every year we set our priorities for the partnership, and it's really important that our communities and members representing communities get the opportunity to feed into that priority setting process. We've got that this year on the 10th of March, hence having the briefing with you prior to that to give you your chance to contribute. What we do at that priority setting is we look at various amounts of data that we get from our strategic assessments and our needs assessments with police data and data from partner agencies. And we also look at what we've previously delivered as a community safety partnership to identify the priorities where there's the biggest threat, risk and harm across our communities. And that's the focus of our work for the next 12 months. That priority setting process that we agree then sets our delivery plan, and every quarter Councillor Rake and Ian Luscombe, as the officer representative on the Community Safety Partnership, will scrutinise the work of the partnership on a quarterly basis against that local delivery plan. So we also make sure that we have local police representatives as well as strategically at that priority setting. Are also fed in. Section 4 of the report talks about some of the key achievements, and there's a few projects there that we've talked about, but again, we can go into more detail of those on the briefing. What we are really keen to do as a partnership is address the community's priorities, and the work that we've been leading for the force on community protection warnings as a way of tackling negative behaviour that has a detrimental impact has been really, really beneficial. You'll see with really high compliance rates to those warnings that we've used the legislation to be able to issue, and we've had some really strong feedback about that. 4.2 is around our awareness work that we do around key issues around community safety that we want the communities to be more aware of, and 4.3 is a specific programme aimed at educating parents around how to keep their young people safe. And we do that across a whole host of community safety issues. In relation to raising awareness, it's been a previous priority of the Community Safety Partnership to try and make sure that our communities are more aware of what we deliver. So we've tried to increase our presence on social media, and we also have an annual forum. That's taking place on the 24th of March. It's an online forum, and that's where we get different people that work with the partnership to come in and showcase some of our project delivery. So that's open to anybody that's representing communities. So that's really good for town and parish councillors as well as district councillors to get an awareness of what we're delivering on their behalves. And obviously we do our member briefings, I've already mentioned. So that was all I was planning on picking out from the paper that's before you today. If you had anything you want to add.
That's just a few questions. Obviously, we've worked with you for many years in the past, and we look forward to working with you in the future. I know how hard you work with a little resource that you've actually got, so we appreciate all of that. How do we ensure that parish councils can actually feed in? Because parish councillors are obviously, most of us are parish councillors, I think, here. How do we ensure that those parish councils actually take notice of what they can add to this? And one thing that I'm a member of, which I do find really helpful, is the police advocate meetings. And with the change of inspectors recently from Ben to Mark, how do we ensure that parish councils are actually sending members to that meeting? Because I think that is such a good meeting, and I was at Ditson Parish Council last night, and they were saying, "Oh, we've never really heard of it. What do we do to join?" So there's just a few questions.
Okay, no problem. To take the first part of your question in relation to parish councils, one of our big ways of engaging with parish forum. It's all sorts of magical noises this afternoon. Is through our annual forum. and also obviously through district councillors as well. And we advertise through the Safe Devon Partnership. Our emails are advertised so that people can communicate with us. Also through key district council staff, it is another way. The other thing that is really important to us, like I mentioned, the bite size awareness, is we have a mailing list of over 900 contacts across Teignbridge, South Hams and West Devon that we disseminate information out about those awareness raising sessions. And that's a really essential way that we communicate out to town and parish councils. But our forum is our main way for having that annual kind of check-in. Your second question around the councillor advocates, that is an initiative that's run by the Office of the Police Crime Commissioner. So it is separate to the Community Safety Partnership. We are keen to try and contribute to that and work with the inspectors when they have those advocate meetings. What I can do is I can take away an action to get something in your members' bulletin that can then be cascaded out to town and parish councils around the advocate scheme and how people join up, if that would be helpful.
If I may add, can I add to that, Chair?
Oh, sorry.
Just to say that she's not here today. We've got a lady called Claire Birch, who is employed by South Hams and West Devon councils, who works with Becca full-time on the partnership. So as district councillors, if you've got any community safety concerns in your areas, then please give me a call, bring it to my attention, or to Claire Birch, and we'd be happy to take that forward either through the partnership or directly with the police through the links that we've established with them. Thank you.
I went to one of your annual meetings many years ago at Rattery Village Hall. It was a fantastic day, it really was. Thoroughly enjoyable, it did an awful lot of good, I'm sure. Right, members. Councillor Dennis.
Thank you. Just a couple of points of explanation, if you don't mind. So the first one is, you said we've got that on the 10th of March, and presumably that's when you're going to sit down with those partners and do the priority setting. 12 months ago, when you came and spoke to us, we had a big conversation about how we as members should feed in. And I think Councillor Dwinter, you were the representative at the time, and it's obviously changed to Councillor Rake now. And there was talk of us having a sort of session either preceding full council where we could sit down and actually discuss those. And I don't think that happened. Are we proposing, are we going to do that as part of the briefing on the 28th? So we reserve our sort of any specific issues till then and then talk about it that. Okay, great. Thank you. The second thing is, in the report, it refers to compliance, and you said it as well. So just in the report, it says, in relation to the community protection warnings, 57 have been issued in South Hams and they currently have a compliance of 93%. What do you mean by compliance?
So we would issue a community protection warning where we are satisfied that there's a continual, or there has been a significant detrimental impact on quality of life. So that's quite wide-ranging in the legislation, and that gives us scope to tackle a whole host of antisocial behaviour. What we mean by compliance is there's been no further information or intelligence to suggest that that warning has been breached. So the warning gives suggested actions. So 93% of those have not come to any further attention. The 7% have moved to a community protection notice, and that notice is more serious, and a breach of that notice would result in it actually moving to being a criminal offence rather than in civil law. And so that's the 7%. That doesn't necessarily mean a failure at that point either, because I think across the whole of the CSP, we've only got 3 cases that we're working on in relation to a breach of that notice.
Councillor Jackson.
I'll put my microphone on. So we're sitting right next to you.
That's okay.
There have been some issues with antisocial behaviour in Kingsbridge, and I know that my fellow councillor, Callaghan, has had some emails from people sort of asking for CCTV in the high street, and I just wondered what your ideas were on that. I have some ideas myself, but I just wondered if it's come up in other places and what people are sort of, thinking about it.
Okay. CCTV is an interesting one. CCTV is quite a complex and quite an expensive one. So I think where there are suitable resources to effectively manage and monitor CCTV, it's a very good tactic in relation to community safety. I think where the public have an expectation that CCTV is giving them a protection, where the resources aren't there to monitor it and it's not the best CCTV system, then that's not so helpful, because I think the public have high expectations of CCTV. So in some areas across the CSP, we have well monitored and active CCTV, and I don't doubt that that's not only a deterrent, but when there are issues, it aids us being able to tackle those issues. But that would be my only caveat on that. Like I say, is it's expensive. You need very good training in relation to human rights, operating procedures. You need to work closely with the Information Commissioner to make sure that what you're delivering is of a good quality and a high standard. And that isn't easy.
Thank you.
Councillor Yardy?
Yes, in Dartmouth area, we had a very incredible incident in which there was armed officers had to be called, etc., etc. I won't go into detail. What links do the Southampton District Council have in terms of mental health to support either the perpetrators or the victims?
So you have an antisocial behaviour officer, Rachel Underwood, and you also have Claire, who's your community safety officer. The idea of the community safety partnership in our links is that we are well linked into all the different partner agencies that can help us problem solve these sorts of things. I'm aware of that case, and I was emailing the inspector about it this morning, and we are going to be getting a response back to councillors, because we want to make sure that we're reassuring councillors that the appropriate measures are in place. And so in relation to that case, generally, it's really important that, for example, I've talked about community protection warnings and compliance. There is no point putting a community protection warning in place unless you're working with the other agencies that will help change that behaviour. We're not about enforcement, we're about engagement, we're about intervention and behaviour change. So to do that, we need to work with mental health services and with other services. Again, I'm going to put another caveat on that, like I do with CCTV. There are a number of services that are really struggling in relation to capacity. And we also sometimes struggle in cases where members of the public and professionals may perceive that there's a mental health problem, but it isn't something which is able to be per se medicated, so not considered for treatment for mental health. So it may not get the resolution, if that makes sense, the resolutions that we might hope through a referral to a mental health services. So in those cases, we need to work with GPs and with others in relation to really monitoring that behaviour, supporting people to change that behaviour. But where that behaviour can't be, then we would sometimes work with housing providers or with others to try and make sure that the impact of that behaviour is limited on other people. Does that make sense? Is that okay?
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Councillor Dennis?
Thank you. In the delivery plan, it references a bite-sized session about fraud and rogue traders. I remember immediately after we met you 12 months ago, we were getting sort of notices of all the Let's Talk things in the members' bulletins, and I know for a fact, I then included it in my reports I gave to parish councils, and I know several of those parish councillors attended those sessions. Where is that 18th of February session advertised? I mean, I've just tried to go on the website and actually it's blocked through our servers here, so I can't get on the website, but it's not on your Facebook page, and I don't think we've had it in a members bulletin. We might have done, but that sounds like a really interesting session. It'd be good to advertise.
I understood it did go to the comms team to go out on the members' newsletter. So what we do with the bite size, as I mentioned, we've got a mailing list of about 900 people that have been on previous ones that want to go on it. And we always send it out to a full list of town and parish councils. And is supposed to go in the members' newsletter. So a significant apology if that hasn't happened. I will follow up on that. I will follow up on that.
Can you follow up on the website? We can't access it through our laptops as well. That would be good. Thank you.
You mentioned work with local schools. I'm assuming that is all the main secondary schools, academies in the South Hams area. What can you explain a little bit more of how you work with the schools?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Please.
we have we try to do it once a term, where we get the local police inspectors and the police youth intervention officers together with the safeguarding leads from the secondary schools. We do that, one for West Devon, one in South Hams, one in Teignbridge. We work with that offer is extended to all people that are delivering a secondary provision. That includes specialist schools, that includes Steiner schools, that includes any schools that we're aware of in a locality. We also extend that to private schools. What we do at those meetings is a two-way process. Is we ask people to bring any issues or concerns that they've got around community safety, but it also enables us and the police to update on information. Where those have been really helpful before, vaping is an issue and a concern from a health perspective and a societal perspective, and an exploitation perspective is very well known. But we raised that up to Devon County Council 2 years ago as a result of that being raised in our schools meetings. Similarly, we were able to gather data from that whole cross-section of secondary delivery around young people's mental health kind of crisis and the data that the schools were given. So that's how we use those meetings. One of the areas that we've really struggled with that was in our plan is to engage with primary schools. We've got about 140 across the patch, and we have attempted on about 3 or 4 occasions to host kind of forum events for primary schools, because what our data and what our research tells us is that the risks are relevant at a much earlier age each time, and that's exploitation and other forms of harm. So we want to get into young people from a preventative perspective as early as possible, but we haven't. That's one thing as a CSP we haven't been very effective, is getting into primary schools, because the last thing I want is primary schools to contact us because there's a problem. I'd prefer to get in and prevent those problems happening. I don't want these sorts of risks to be embedded in our primary. So I can't preempt what's going to be agreed at the priority setting, because I'm the chair of the partnership and the manager of the partnership, but I'm not the partnership. It needs to be everybody else as well. But for me, that is a priority, because early intervention and prevention is a real key to how we keep our community safe.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Perswell.
Just briefly, I wondered what the obstruction was to getting primary schools. There's just no uptake from them, and can we help in any way by advertising?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we ran the sessions, we mailed out to everybody. We had 3 or 4. The 3 or 4 that turned up said, "This is amazing, we really need this." They even wrote me a few sentences to promote it that we then sent out, and we just didn't get people attend. We tried to do the whole what time of day, what day of the week, when are your training days, when do people go home, when do lessons finish, and I think we've made 4 attempts and we've only ever got about 4 or 5, when we know that we've got, like I say, nearly about 150 primary schools. I would definitely like to come back and ask for help and put that out maybe through the members' newsletter, if it's agreed as a priority for next year going forward, that we attempt that again. It might be we run a one-off face-to-face, and bizarrely we might get people to that more than, we've even gone out to ask for what are the things that are worrying you, because I'm sure that every primary school has got some trends that they're seeing that's worrying them: gambling, online risk, images, sharing of images, vaping, other forms of exploitation, substance misuse. They are all things that we're starting to see coming into our primary schools, and I'm sure that the primary schools are worried about, because we are seeing exclusion rates in primary schools increasing. So if we do pick that up as a priority again in the next financial year, then it would be really helpful to come back to ask you to reach out to your local communities to try and encourage them to join.
Okay, is there any other questions? No? Okay, I'm going to raise one more, sorry. I'm going to raise one more. PSPOs, dog orders, etc. Probably some more for Ian, yes, and for your good self. We've all got issues, I'm sure, with dogs doing things in our towns that they shouldn't necessarily do. And also in my patch, in our patch, dogs not on leads when we've got an order that they should be on leads. How do we actually really enforce that, or do we?
Apologies. Well, the setting up of the PSPO falls to my team. The enforcement doesn't, so I'm not able to answer fully. However, I know there is a reporting mechanism. So if you have got dogs that you know, or owners of dogs who are allowing their dogs to foul, then the first step is to make sure that is reported into the council. There will then be a process where that would be investigated and action taken by service of a fixed penalty notice. I haven't got any statistics or any details to hand, as I say, because it doesn't fall within my area at the moment, but I'm sure I can go and fetch that information and come back to members on it if you wish.
Okay, thank you for that. I've got one particular gentleman who's very worked up by it, and we don't seem to be getting anywhere. But Steve?
I was going to say that's not me. I'm not that particular.
No.
Thank you, Chair.
It could be you.
It could be me. What I would say is there was a report that went to the executive, and I can't recall the date, which talked about a revised approach to enforcement. And Councillor Abbott is the lead member for that. But there was talk about that, and I know that we're in the process at the minute of giving locality officers body cams as part of them taking a more rigorous approach to enforcement. But as a dog walker, you go round and you never see anybody who doesn't pick up dog mess. It's just one of those things. You could probably have 1,000 enforcement officers and still not catch the culprits, unfortunately.
No, I think the actual idea of giving our locality teams web cameras is a brilliant idea. Well, I've just taken my little dog up into the Arboretum, and the lady in front of me with a dog didn't pick it up, and it was all over the middle of the path, which is completely disgusting. But sorry, Becky, you wanted to come back? Councillor Penfold.
You remembered my name. Jolly good.
How could I forget?
What areas do we have that are covered by an order that dogs have to be on the leads in South Hams?
So I believe the order covers all areas apart from areas of common land. So it would be areas that are within a 30-mile-an-hour zone, which is generally a built-up area. The requirement to keep the dogs on the lead and not to foul applies. Then you've got areas of moorland, which are common land, which the order does not apply to.
Is this accessible somewhere on our South Hams website?
The PSPO should be posted on the website. Yeah, there'll be a link to it there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so no other questions? Can I thank you very much for attending? Very much appreciated. We need to move the recommendations which are on front of us. Note the work of a community safety partnership and encourage members to take part in the annual priority setting process, which is going to take place next month, I believe. 27th of February. Okay. Is everybody happy to support those recommendations? And does anybody want to add anything? No? Okay, thank you both very much. Thank you. Right, if we can go to item 8, economy and jobs, and Councillor Birch, who is the executive member. I would certainly move the nameplate because it says you're Dan Thomas and.
Same ward, huh? Same ward. Councillor President, please don't take that on me. I feel really bad.
And so you should. That's not nice.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure, John.
Councillor Birch, the floor is yours.
Okay, would like to offer members the opportunity to ask questions on the report that is before them, which is, I won't go through it in detail, but it clearly sets out the position on economy and jobs, and Chris Crishy is has put this document together, and I must congratulate him on a very comprehensive and positive report with lots of green on it. Happy to answer any questions.
Right, thank you very much. I'm going to let members questions first. Councillor Dennis.
I have a few things highlighted, but I'll just go from the top, and I'll come back to some of the others. But the marine electrification event, I think there was going to be a second one. Do we have a date for a follow up to that yet?
Not yet, but we are working on it.
Okay, great. And the second thing was the 70 grants that have been awarded to groups from across the district. I'm aware of some in my area, because I know you yourself came to the Salcombe event of the local Chamber of Commerce, and out of that there were several grants awarded. But I just wondered, it might be helpful for ward members to have a list now of some of those grants that were awarded. Because obviously all good news stories, and be able to follow up.
Yeah, so one of the things that we were going to get, so in my team there's an economic analyst, and they are intending to do a mapping exercise to show that grants have been delivered across the entire district. So we'll make that information available. But I should say that programme's coming to a close at the moment, and so we're kind of in a position where we're closing off all of the grant payments, and we wouldn't want to do some publicity on someone who's not actually claimed the funding yet. So because if it then went belly up, then you're left with a bit of egg on your face, aren't you? But we will be producing that and giving that information for members to follow up with.
Can I just follow that? But this is full of good news stories, and really, I've asked that when we're in the right position, we can give some publicity on this because there's been a lot of good work coming out of this program. So we'll certainly be doing that.
Members' questions. Stunned silence. Councillor Steele.
Chris, hey. It's been good to work with you on the economic plan for Ivy Bridge. I wonder if you could give some overall comments on how that process has gone. And I know there's a point about grants being scarce at the moment, but how do you think that might feed forwards into projects?
Okay, so I should start by commenting on the brilliant chair that we've got of the Ivy Bridge Steering Group. Yes, what an excellent question you asked. But I'd say it's actually been a really positive piece of work for the district council, because it's really built a much stronger rapport between the district council and the towns, and that's an ongoing relationship as well. So we're having regular partnership meetings with people and moving projects forward within the town as well. In terms of funding, at the moment that's a slightly more challenging situation. So we're very conscious of the amount of funding that's been made available to us from the next round of UK Shared Prosperity funding, which, if I put that into perspective just very briefly, this year we've delivered approximately 500k's worth of projects and programme across the agri sector, the marine sector, and a whole variety of other areas. And we've also delivered about 500k's worth of grants on top of that, so approximately £1 million of spend on supporting our business and community organisations. And the amount of money that's been made available to South Hams for the next 12 months is about 275,000. So that puts it into perspective what we're dealing with next year.
Okay, thank you. One criticism of this report is I think we could have done with more actual information of what those projects were. I think that would have been very helpful. And we used to, and I'm sure the council does, and I've probably missed it, but we used to put our own funding into industrial estates, etc. Is that still taking place? Because I'm sure it is, but I'd just like to raise it, because obviously that's really important. I know the last time that we had a small industrial estate built in Dartmouth Admiral's Court, they were full within, hours of it being available, and I would really like more projects like that being rolled out over the South Hams, particularly in the next couple of years.
can I just say, but as to the request for further information, in defence, I have been, with a report has been prepared by Chris. He sends it to me every 2 months, which lists out all the projects that the economic development team are proceeding with, and I've distributed that to all members. So members are receiving details of what the team is progressing. That goes out every 2 months. So it's not that we are seeking to, members are fully briefed on what is happening.
It would have been helpful if perhaps been an attachment to this report, perhaps.
And if I may, just on top of what Councillor Birch has just said, the more detailed report went to executive in November, which has a summary table of all of the projects, so a bit more detail, including a couple of case studies within that for some of the work that individual projects are doing, and that also includes a summary of the outputs and outcomes that are being delivered. But I apologise and take your point on board that in future we should attach a previous report into the appendices.
Okay. Councillor Eady?
Thank you. I'm inquiring about the opportunities that are coming out of the Freeport, and in particular, just interested to know what we feel those opportunities are looking like at this early stage, and whether we feel we have an idea about what the vision of our, of what it is we are likely to see as being the great prizes of being associated with driving the Freeport are going to be. Councillor Birch, I think you're on the board. May have.
Can I just find a document that I sent out yesterday to a reporter who has asked the same question? There's a report going in one of the local papers, and I sent him an update, which I'll try and find. Where is it? And it's really, here we are. Right. This is an update as to what is happening at the Langage site, which, as you know, is within the district. And this is the current progress that's being made there. So first of all, Plymouth City Council is directly developing a 1.6 hectare plot at Beaumont Way with full planning consent already secured. Construction began in December 2024, and the site will deliver around 4.615 square metres or 50,000 square feet of high quality sustainable employment space across 4 units, designed for medium to large businesses. All units are targeting top environmental standards, including EPC A ratings, BREEAM Excellence and Net Zero Carbon certification. Marketing for tenant occupancy is now underway, with the units ready for occupation in early 2006. Next, Langage Energy Park is a hub for green energy innovation, featuring an operational solar farm and approved plans for a green hydrogen production facility, paving the way for cutting-edge sustainable energy solutions. Next, Plot 3 has planning approval for 7 industrial units of various sizes, while Plot 1, just outside the tax site, and Plot 2 have planning applications in progress for 15 starter units and 2 larger industrial units. Plots 7 and 8 are covered by outline planning approval, while Plots 5 and 6 are included in policy PLY 51 of the Joint Local Plan, providing further opportunities for development. Next, our seed capital programme is delivering the...
Would I suggest Councillor Birch sends that to all members, because I think if you actually send it to us, we'll take it in far more than, with a graceful act, just reading it to us.
I'm nearly finished. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Our seed capital programme is delivering the following key developments. 1, Spine Road, Devon County Council is delivering a road extension to unlock Carlton Power Plots 7 and 8 by the end of 2025. Power supply, Carlton Power is providing power to Plots 2 and 3 by the end of March 2026, ensuring readiness for business operations. Next, new access road, Carlton Power is building an access road to serve Plots 1 and 2 by the end of March 2026, improving connectivity across the site. And finally, pedestrian stroke cycle bridge. Devon County Council is creating a bridge across the A38, connecting residents with active travel links between the Freeport's Langage and Sherford tax sites. In conclusion, there's a lot going on. And I will copy that to members of the committee.
Thank you. Chris?
I'll try to be brief. Just in follow-up to your question as well, so I think Langage is probably the site where we've got most flexibility and opportunity in terms of potential inward investment opportunities, and the other sites, there's very specific activities going on with them that mean that our focus is really on the Langage area, and so myself and a member of my team, Andrew Elliott, our Economic Development Officer, sit on the investment board for the Freeport as well. So there's the list of, earlier it was about 160, it's fluctuated from between that to around 200 businesses that are interested in moving into the area. And so they're all in various sectors and what have you. And so our focus very much is trying to reflect the council's sort of direction of travel, and so looking at the green economy in particular and opportunities around that, as Councillor Birch was saying, around the green hydrogen plant and things like along those lines. And so we're proactively working with the businesses that show an interest in the Freeport that fall within that category to explore those opportunities further and to align them with the sites that are coming forward.
Thank you. Very briefly, because I think the inquiry is about what the spectrum of inquiries, the spectrum of sectors and interested organisations that are inquiring is chiefly what I was kind of curious to know.
So it's a real variety. So we don't get involved with the defence ones, so there are some in that sector, and so that's not our area of interest. But as I say, there's plenty of green businesses, marine businesses, advanced manufacturing and engineering businesses as well that are showing an interest, and there's a real wide variety. But if we don't feel that they align with the local economy and our strategic objectives, then they're seen as slightly lower priority.
I'm going to just come back one more. Do we have any plans for future development of our own industrial estates, or is that?
So a significant amount of that is going to be taking place at Langage, as So when that information is forwarded to you, you'll be able to see the plots that are advancing and the types of units that are being developed there. Apart from that, outside of there's less activity happening in terms of the council directly delivering new industrial estates and industrial units. So for example, earlier, a year or so ago, we had the Batsing units that launched in Salcombe. But at the moment, we're working heavily with developers, so private developers and sites, with a real focus on allocated sites. So obviously we want to be bringing forward the sites that are in the JLP to make sure that those sites are coming forward again in a way that we feel is conducive to the objectives of this council.
Thank you very much for that. I think it's a great shame that we're not actually trying to invest ourselves in our smaller towns. I know Langage obviously is a priority, but most of us, we only visit that part of the world once or twice a month. And I do know from being a parochial councillor actually it's in Simon's patch, not ours, the industrial section for Little Cotton is highly unlikely to be developed because the developer really just wants to build houses there. And it's a great shame that we can't help further with that. Councillor Birch?
Yeah, can I just say on that, there was a possible opportunity on the new site being developed by Baker at Dartmouth that we did inquire as to the possibility of see if there was an opportunity for the council to take up some of the employment land on that site. We were told that in fact it's already taken. And I think it's not. It's more retail than what I would call employment, which is unfortunate. So we as a council are looking for employment opportunities to develop, the units, and in fact, that's in the council plan. So
That's
we're
good
looking
news.
for opportunities. So if any member finds that there is an opportunity in his or her patch, then please tell us so that we can follow it through.
I'm sure Jane and I can find some. Because Little Cotton, with a great respect, it's a hotel that's taken most of the space up, and there is a possibility of retail.
There we go. Hi. Yeah, I'm really sorry, but I haven't been able to read the update because I haven't been able to open my the agenda on my laptop. So apologies if I'm. But I just wanted to, well, first of all, say I don't know if it was but well done on the outcome for Baltic Wharf, because I think that'll be really good for Totnes. But have you modelled what will happen if? I know that's a big question, but
as to what will happen to the Freeport following any reorganisation. This is my interpretation. So it's not just bear that in mind. The Freeport, the Freeport is effectively the governing body. Is a what's called a steering committee, which consists of 3 local authorities. That is, this is South Hams, Plymouth City Council, and Devon County Council. And those 3 authorities have got what's called a partnership agreement. The partnership agreement sets out how that partnership should work. And it's much of the governance of the Freeport is covered by this partnership agreement. So if those 3 partners should change or no longer exist, then clearly they will be replaced by another body or bodies, and presumably they will then take the place of whoever succeeds them. So that's my interpretation. I must admit I've not looked through the partnership agreement to see exactly if that situation is covered, but in effect the Freeport will be governed by those who succeed the 3 authorities I've mentioned. That's my understanding of the situation.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Oldham?
Thank you, Chairman. It was just really a reminder to members that we currently have a task and finish group for the Freeport, which has covered a lot of these questions already. And that is an open task and finish group, so all members are welcome to attend and to participate.
Councillor Dennis.
Thank you. It just refers to action 3.2, which is the support for broadband connectivity improvements. Oh dear. Yeah, I'm very well aware that there are communities in my ward, Felston being an example, where the scale back of airband delivering on broadband is obviously having an impact. This has got a nice little green tick box next to it, but I wonder if there is anything that can be done. I appreciate it falls under county council's responsibility, but what can be done and what are you doing to help that?
Yeah. So that's fine. So at the moment, I think you're right. There's very little that can be done. All we can really do is try to champion when issues arise within local communities. Usually raising those directly with Connecting Devon and Somerset, and my team does have a reasonably positive relationship with Connecting Devon and Somerset when you can speak to them, and so we'll push issues and try to get those resolved when they do arise. But in terms of our ability to influence sort of roll out into other areas and things like that, there's very little engagement opportunity for us to shape that.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Molyneux.
I just wanted to go back, Chair, to Councillor Steele's comments about the town economic plans. And I was with the Deputy Leader. We were at the Town Mayors and Clerks meeting yesterday with the Leader and Chief Executive. And the towns that have progressed the most in terms of Ivybridge and Salcombe were praising the engagement and felt there was real value in those economic plans in terms of going forward. And actually the other towns were sort of, right, well, I want to get started on mine now. So I'd like to pay tribute to Chris and the team, because they're definitely adding value to the towns, and the towns actually really see the value in that. So just say thank you, and that just to update members wider that towns do appreciate that work.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any other questions? No? I'm going to make one last comment, if I may. It says that we are supporting our high streets and businesses to adapt for the future. How we can actually suggest that when we're putting our car parking charges up drastically surprises me. Councillor Birch.
Yeah, if you remember, Mr. Chair, the resolution that was passed by the Executive Committee at its meeting last week is that there will be a review within 9 months. So that is going, it has not, that is the submissions made by the town council has not gone unnoticed, and clearly that is an issue that we will be revisiting. There is a debate as to whether there has been quite a bit of a debate over this. Therefore, let's see what comes out of the review. So it's not as though it's you're making a point that is not going to be looked at again.
Thank you very much, Councillor Birch. But as a mere retailer, I know how much car parking is vital to town centres. Thank you very much.
Can I suggest you might like to raise that when Councillor Abbott comes before you, because it's his department, not mine.
Thank you. Recommendations in front of us. Is everybody happy to support that? Yes? Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Right, we're running on time. Right. Councillor Thomas, are you coming to the front? Sorry? Councillor Thomas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. I thought Councillor Birch was very kind to you then.
It's nice to see you.
It's nice to see you too. I would have pointed out to you that parking on the High Street, Councillor Hawkins, is the providence of the county. So perhaps you can make sure at County Hall you recommend that parking fees are reduced rather than increased.
And if you remember, Councillor Thomas, we in Dartmouth fought long and hard. And in Dartmouth, we do not have any on-street parking meters at all.
Oh, I do remember.
Because County listened to our consultation.
Who would have thought County would listen to you, Councillor
And
Hawkins?
did exactly what the community wanted, and we didn't have on-street parking.
For County to listen to a Conservative County Councillor, I'm in awe, Councillor Hawkins. I really am.
Well, you're not even listening to your own councillors.
You've certainly had your pep, Councillor Hawkins. I'm thrilled to be in front of you. This is the first time that I've been at this committee since I sat in that chair, in fact. So it's lovely to be back. Members, you will be delighted to see that you have a relatively brief report in front of you. In fact, it's only 2 sections, and then we move on to the substantive part, which is the council plan progress update. I would commend Mr. Hawke and the team, because it's really, I think, quite user friendly, and we can see what's going on. There is 1 activity not yet due to start. There are 2 completed. There are 10, which we cite as being on track and within budget. I hope you will agree, but clearly we'll have the opportunity to ask questions. You'll have the opportunity to ask questions on those, split into 3 sections. The first primary aim to make sure all residents can access the services they need, 2 to get things right the first time, and 3 council services and resilience. Now, actually, some of these are quite operational, and you'd be forgiven for not knowing, as indeed I didn't, that we did some of them, because they're things that very often are quite heavily officer oriented. By that I mean I would talk about, for example, in the first section, the small panel of councils, considering recruitment challenges. That isn't something that we would necessarily be massively aware of as members, but it's absolutely something that we should be on top of. And equally, you don't necessarily see apprenticeships, work experience and that side of things on a day-to-day basis, because again they tend to be operational, but I think it's really important that we know about them as councillors. Chairman, I don't propose to go through them line by line, because clearly that you've all had them. I'm very happy to answer questions that members have. I'm just going to obviously invite Mr. Hawke. This is your work, Neil. Did you want to add in?
Neil, have you got anything to add?
No, nothing to add, Chair. I think a good introductory from our lead member. So,
can I just thank you for all the hard work and effort over many years you've done for the South Ham? So it's very much appreciated. Members, questions. I'm going to go straight to Councillor Dennis, because it's normally Councillor Dennis that wishes to speak first.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins and Chair. Actually, yes, I do have a couple of questions, mainly around the primary aim 3. So obviously that is the first bit of that, the review climate emergency impact statement. I just wondered why that hasn't started. And then the second thing was action 3.2 is missing. And being something that I have brought up several times through the audit committee, I was looking forward to an update on 3.2, which was plan how we can assess the impact that our services and policy decisions have on the environment and on our communities. And so just wondered where that was. Thank you.
Yes, the core services theme is carved into 2 parts. That sits within the other part, which is scheduled for a later update to the committee. So I'm just trying to get the full delivery plan on the screen.
We have no screen at the present moment. Oh, it's Amelia's fault, not mine. You should never press delete. That's what I found. Rosie,
we're still streaming, Chair, but the equipment decided to reboot whilst it's slowly coming back up. But the streaming has not been interrupted.
Okay.
So apologies to Councillor Muniz.
Oh. He's probably gone home.
No, I think he's still there.
So while we're just sorting that out, I mean, the answer to the first one, so far as I'm aware, is that the one that's grey is that I think the timescale for starting that in terms of actually assessing, and Mr. Powell, you're here, we were looking at the 5-year period, weren't we, on that?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, correct. Obviously, it was only adopted a couple of years ago, and also there's also an issue here about the fact that the new MPPF and the status of the local plan means that any statement that supports that process will need to be viewed in the context of how we go forward with the new local plan. It's a supporting document for delivering the joint local plan.
Councillor Dennis, are you happy with that answer?
I think I need to think about it, but yes. So just like I said, I'm aware, as you said, that this portfolio is divided into 3. Actually, it does say in the intro that it's 2. So we heard Councillor Hopwood's part of it. We haven't actually heard Councillor Hodgson's part of it. But like I say, the 3.2 is something I have brought up numerous times through audit, and would be really keen to see some progress on that.
Thank you, Councillor Dennis. Yes, I've got the plan in front of me now, and yes, so it's the decision-making tool, isn't it? So when we're bringing forward decisions to committee, that we've considered various different elements, including the climate element. There is work underway with that, and I will invite Drew in, because Drew's been leading on that bit of work with Adam.
Yeah, thank you. There has been a delay. We've discussed the use of the tool and what it delivers with the lead member for climate change and biodiversity. We're in the process of trying to see how we can put it into the report template in a way that sort of makes sense and doesn't overtake the report template. So it is something we are doing. We have used it to review some previous decisions, and we believe that the actual decision-making tool will add value. So it's just a timing thing in terms of getting it added into the report template.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Steele.
Yeah, so just on enforcement. So we had a really useful meeting for Ivy Bridge cases on enforcement. Must have been about 3 or 4 months ago. So perhaps we could schedule another one fairly soon, or just have something that seems to work on, if it was done on a regular basis, a couple of times a year. I think that is very helpful to get a catch up on the enforcement cases.
Yeah, I think the onus there, Chairman, is the members are entirely welcome to arrange at any time they like, as they see fit. And the process should be that you have the enforcement meeting, and either things are satisfactorily resolved, or if they're not to your satisfaction as a ward member, then I would heartily recommend that you either speak to the case officer, or I know Helen will, as lead enforcement officer, I know Helen will always pick that up, and she's very, very quick.
Yeah, she always comes back very quickly to us.
But what I would say, of course, is that, with 260, 270 cases on the books, which is, a good percentage down from where we were, but still quite a large amount, I would ask for some support from ward members in being proactive, because I think that's useful.
While we're discussing enforcement, most of my parishes are still concerned about the time it takes the cases to be dealt with. I'm assuming that we're going to do our best to try and reduce that time.
Are you sharing, if we take you as a specific example, Chairman, are you sharing with them where a case is in terms of the information that's sent through to you as to what stage it's at?
Yes.
Yeah, because that should be helping the understanding, particularly if they're now aware of what those stages are. I mean, at the end of the day, some cases will necessarily fly through and some won't, and invariably the ones that parish councils are most concerned about, and indeed ward members are most concerned about, are the ones that are trickier, which necessarily take longer.
Understood.
I mean, it is a constant battle. I'm never going to be able to sit here, nor is anyone looking after enforcement in any local authority, and say everyone is going to be happy, because they're not. And actually, some of the things that speed the process up are us triaging at the beginning and deciding that something is de minimis. And that, in turn, will frustrate residents as well. But I think the general direction of travel is green, and if it isn't for individual ward members, then I would really encourage either talking to Helen, or, if necessary, come and tell me, and I'll.
I always find that Helen's always very helpful and usually comes back within 24 hours. Councillor Dennis?
Sorry, just to come back specifically on that enforcement, if anything, I don't think this report captures the actual huge improvement that has been seen in the last 12 months, because, as we know, the number of open cases has dramatically reduced, and particularly in myself and Councillor Long's ward, the number of cases and those ones, long-standing ones, is almost completely gone, actually. So those, just to support what Councillor Steele just said then about those meetings with the enforcement team, and actually just going through each case by case and seeing how we can progress each one, really useful.
Okay, Councillor Penfold.
I'm really interested in 3.3, the resilience for emergency planning. Could you talk about that a bit, please? And a series of weekly 30-minute business masterclasses.
Would you permit me to ask Mr. Molyneux to talk to that, or Mr. Powell, because they are the one. In fact, it's Mr. Powell now, is it? Because I don't go to them, and so it would make more sense if you had an officer input. This is one of the ones I was talking about, which is really quite operational, but it's important we know about.
Thank you. Rather than sitting behind, I'll come and join you at the meeting. Oh, I'll try. In terms of, it's very loud, isn't it? In terms of business continuity, so a key part of our response to civil contingencies is to have business continuity plans in place. So we've got a high-level business continuity plan for the council. What we've been working on is making sure each service has got a business continuity plan that actually plugs into that. So we look at our IT resilience, cyber security, all that sort of stuff. That's a strategic risk which comes to audit and governance. But these sessions have been actually bringing together heads of service, getting them to understand the process, what they need to think about, and then present those plans back to a group which I head up. We're now in a position where we've got plans for most service areas, and we've got a proper exercise planned to basically run through the whole thing, create an incident, and then see how each service responds to those incidents. And it's simple things like if they had no IT, what would they do? How would we pay our benefits? How would we pay those sort of things? Down to if we don't have IT for a year, what would we do then? Who could we partner with? Things like that. So there's some fundamental stuff in there about keeping the business operating. We have a hierarchy of which parts of the organisation we need to get back up and running quickest if we have a full IT breakdown. It's that sort of stuff, if that helps.
Have there been any incidents that we've not really noticed that you've managed to smooth over?
Oh, plenty. No. We do have. Yeah, we've had a couple of issues already. We've had some cyber issues which we've had to deal with suppliers, and they're usually dealt with. We're aware of them using the systems. We've got sort of early warning systems, effectively. But we do, we have incidents all the time where we expect heads of service to respond quickly and to, put in place the necessary response. Touch wood, we haven't had anything major for a while. Let's hope that continues to be the case.
Right, any other questions, members? Councillor Oram? No? Okay, Dan, can I thank you very much for coming? And you are going to do a duo, I think, with Jed on the consultation paper.
Item 10.
Oh, we need to go, sorry, I'm being told back. Can we vote on the recommendation in front of us? Just noting. Everybody happy? Yeah. So it's noted. So Dan, it's back to you and Jed.
Well, I'm not sure it's back to me as such, Chairman. I mean, agenda item 10 is, I would suggest, the recommendations are that you're suggesting amendments to go to the executive, in which I sit. So I probably shouldn't have two bites of the cherry on this, really. All I would say is I sat on the task and finish committee that put this document together originally, the consultation and engagement strategy. Personally, I am committed to consultation and engagement at every opportunity that is relevant and expedient and appropriate. And as long as we meet that criteria, I've already said I will support. The other caveat that you will have heard before, Councillor Hawkins, from the previous leader, is that it has to be one. Any requests from ONS that go to the exec will need to be couched in thought about whether or not the workload on officers is proportionate and reasonable. And I've made that clear in advance as well. I think with those caveats, I'm happy to leave the conversation to ONS, led by yourself or Councillor Yardy, whoever, and then we'll listen to the recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask Councillor Yardy, Jed, to comment on this? You've done a huge amount of work and time and effort on this, which we very much appreciate.
So thank you for the opportunity. I've turned on this one. I did a little bit of a presentation because I wanted to, but it didn't manage to get into the papers. So it would be really good if we had the first slide up, if the business as usual IT. Oh, right.
We need a plan, don't we, for this?
So I'm going to have to operate without the presentation. Amelia's got it at the moment.
Rosie's going to make turn. It's going to come up any minute now.
Hey.
There we are.
Oh. So this is purely for discussion. I don't feel that this is absolutely in any way ready for approval. But if you put the first slide up, please. So I put some pretty pictures in because I wanted to explain that having a consultation and engagement means that there are plenty of discussions going on, there are plenty of problems that need to be addressed. And here you've got a guy with a fuzzy beard and probably a little bit of a yacht in the background. He's working out how to solve that problem. Next slide. But it's part of a much bigger picture. That's only one part of what will be a complex discussions going on between multiple individuals all over the place. And 70% of the time, all those discussions are going in the right direction. But 30% of the times, they're not going to be aligned.
I've never been to a consultation meeting when there's so much wine.
So
But these discussions are all part of a much broader picture. So please go to the next one.
I thought it was the banks of the River Dart.
So these discussions are part of not just one of the images. You're sitting in a gallery looking at all sorts of different images, all of them equally important, all of them about stakeholders, all of them about really, really important, so that we get the feedback going both ways. And what I'm trying to get to here is there is a lot of complexity involved in making sure these stakeholder discussions are correct. Next slide. So I was asked, I asked and created the opportunity to have this discussion. So we go to the next slide, please. I wanted to just revisit the consultation and engagement strategy. Methods. We will use methods to engage that are fit for purpose. Support. We will identify and overcome barriers to participation by engaging with a range of methods. And there's impact there. Next slide. In the outcomes, we have the council will learn and evolve on the engagements we undertake, and the communities participating in the engagement will understand how their views have made a difference. Council and officers are involved in supporting the communities to effectively in everything we do. Next one. So there's plenty of things that have really well written down that say that we should always be improving, including a review and consultation on engagement activities alongside a delivery plan. And we also have development toolkit and develop a member and support councils and promote opportunities involved in the local environment. Next slide. What I noticed in the forward plan that between January 24 and January 25, a column disappeared, actually quite an important column. That column is called consultees and means of consultation. So in my view at the moment, this particular plan lacks a timeline that supports engagement and consultation that we as members, ward members, can use to work with our communities, to work with parish councils, because parish councils take at least a month to engage, create an agenda, and then for us to engage with it. So the latest version is missing something really important, the consultation and means of consultation, engagement. We need a timeline, and we need that timeline so that deliverables can be formulated in a timely fashion. Next slide. So in terms of making sure this doesn't overbear on officer time, what I'm suggesting is that there should be a one-page overview for each of the major items in the strategic plan. I'm not saying that we have to have 100 of them straight away or full coverage. We could just do the ones that are coming up next. Once drafted, it should only need minimum updating by project leads. In fact, the information should be generated anyway by what we do each day. It's just making it transparent so that we as ward members and our parishioners can engage. It can be used in any governance meeting, and it provides transparency and a framework for members and residents, as I've said. And it's tried and tested in different, not just here. This approach is tried and tested elsewhere. So let's go to the next slide. All this is an example. It's a timeline. The little green dots across the top are the various meetings. It could be exec meetings, it could be ONS meetings, etc. And all we're doing is we're pointing out when we ask the parishes to do something, when we're rolling out something new, when a report's expected. Because if we do not do this, then it is really, really hard for us to engage in the right way, in a timely fashion. We could be operating and making decisions or trying to do things when it's not right for the officers because they haven't got the bandwidth to do it. But we could be doing it perhaps earlier in the year when they're in a position where they're sort of maxed out doing another job. So I'm trying to get here. If we see a timeline, a very high level one, and I've got the budget down there because we know that comes in October, so we could actually start working on some of these problems now. And I'm sure you already are, but it's about communicating that to the ward members and to others that I have to work with, we work with. So that's an example of what it could be. And if we flip over one more, here we're looking at, there's a timeline on the right. On the left, at the top there's high-level main activities, benchmarking, which we did in the parking one. It's got engaging with consultees, it's validating assumptions, there's all sorts of app development. I've just made that up, frankly, just to illustrate a situation. On the left, we have the team, so we know exactly who we're working with. And on the right, we have the SMART milestones, measurable, achievable, realistic, timely. At the bottom, this is the most important box. If there is a delay of a month or 2 months, we need to know why, because that delay impacts the work that we're doing. It will have a consequence. So it's important
that delays on a timeline are communicated, because I have to deal with the frustration of my ward members not understanding why has it not happened. If the officer or the exec member or whoever it is wants to apply for more resources or get a view on a consultation or get a reprioritisation, then this last box, resource, the one at the bottom, should be where you bring the open issues. And that should be coming to meetings like this, or to the exec, or to any of the meetings in which there can be some sort of decision which supports the project ungluing that bit of stickiness and supports it getting through. And I'm asking for one page only, on the particular, and it doesn't have to be done now. We can just do it on the 3 that come up in the next, or 3 or 4 that come up in the next quarter, and do the next 3 or 4 in the quarter following. So this is what I'm asking us to consider. And if we move on one more, the recommendation that I floated was to take the comments to a task and finish group, after which the outcome be sent to the exec for approval. That was my suggested amendment. And at that point, I'd like to take any questions.
Thank you, Jed. Neil, do you have any comments? No. So, Councillor Birch.
Yes. Can I just say, I think this is certainly think this is very helpful proposal from Councillor Yardy, in that the consultation and engagement strategy arose out of a task and finish group that took place quite a while back when I was chair of ONS, and there's a lot of work went into that, and I think, my memory serves me correctly, I think it probably goes back to 2020. So it does need looking at. And I think it would be helpful if this went to a task and finish group to examine the proposals that have come forward from Councillor Yardy, and then come back to this committee for it to pass a recommendation to the executive. I mean, it would really only need one meeting, and then quickly, I think the executive would value it being looked at by a task and finish group rather than discussed in a forum such as this.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillors, any? Joe?
Actually, not a councillor, if I may, just perhaps just to explain the reason for taking it off the forward plan. It was because by the time something goes on the forward plan, it would be too late to talk about consultation, because the things will go onto the forward plan to make a decision that may be happening. You know, we might have been working on that project for 2 years prior to it going on the forward plan. So I think the better way to determine to understand when there's need for consultation for members to question whether there should be and to what level would be through the council plan itself and through the budget planning. So that was the reason to take it off the forward plan. Other than that, I think I would say that for the key projects, the sort of one pager you've described, Councillor Yardy, I think is there within the project plan, usually owned by the exec lead member and the lead officer. That doesn't necessarily mean that helps you. I appreciate that. I'm just saying that is sort of the work that is done on delivering key projects.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Yardy?
Yeah. So thank you. It shows that the work is actually somewhere. That means it should be relatively straightforward to translate it into a one-page summary. That's really good. Unfortunately, I have to disagree with you that I know when the budget is in October, but it's good. I think that some of the work is necessary in some occasions, and I can just go through the exercise we've been through with parking, that we can start elements of the consultation engagement, asking for analysis, asking for input far earlier than a few weeks before the budget. And that could happen in January, etc. And to communicate that to our stakeholders, and they could do the work now while you're busy doing the app and implementation and things like that.
Sorry, just to make it clear, because maybe I didn't explain myself. What I was saying is that the forward plan for the executive will be populated, say, 3 months in advance, but decisions that are going to be made may well come on a month, 28 days before the meeting. So to put it on there as the method for members to decide whether consultation is needed, it's too late, because the discussion, we may have started working on a particular project 2 years before that, which will usually have been prompted by the contents of the council plan. So what I'm saying is the council plan is a better place for members to look and go, we think this proposal around a capital project we can deliver, for example, should have a comprehensive consultation engagement and the extent of that, and then discuss that with the lead member. So that's my point. Does that make sense to members? If not, I'll try again.
Steve, do you want to come in? Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's maybe slightly different to what Mr. Powell's saying. I think there's two different issues here. What you're saying about consultation and engagement and reviewing how that's done, I'm not necessarily disagreeing that you want, what you're saying is members need to be involved and that process needs to start earlier. And there's plenty of examples where it has done, and you could cite car parking and say there's examples that it's not been done. But I think the one-pager type project highlight report, in effect, that's operational detail, and we do that all the time. And we've sat today before this meeting with the executive looking at a delivery plan for the next 3 years, which has got God knows how many lines of things we are going to do, and each one of those will have a delivery plan. But that is for us as officers to deliver. It's for the lead members as the elected representatives, in my mind, representing the council and leading the council on behalf of the community, for them to be saying, have you thought about this, or have you thought about that, officers? And should we tell the other members? Should we go to towns and parishes? Should we engage with the community? And I think the operational delivery of the project, I don't see, if we did that, we wouldn't do anything else, because we'd spend all our time coming to members and being quizzed about the operational delivery of the project. The bit about consultation and engagement, a valid point, but going through a highlight report on a project for every project that this council does would mean we wouldn't do anything else. If you see what I'm saying?
I have to fundamentally disagree, because it clearly works in other industries and other organisations. And I'm not saying that it has to be done for every project. I'm saying it has to be done for those that are coming up, or 3 or 4, 5 or 6. And the detail is so that we can engage. But it's good to listen to the views of the rest of the members.
Councillor Oldham.
Thank you, Chairman. There's clearly a disagreement in the room about how to push this idea forward and how it would work practically. So I'm minded, Chairman, to agree that a task and finish group should come about, so that members and officers can get round the table at a later date and really hash out the detail on how this could work, if it could work, and how it can satisfy Councillor Yardy's inquiry today. I would really like to give him the opportunity to be able to get this into a task and finish group and have those discussions in a forum.
Totally agree. Councillor Dennison, and we'll close this item.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, just to put it in context a little bit, this came out of audit and governance, and it was the internal auditors that made recommendations on the consultation engagement strategy, and it was proposed in that meeting that we have a task and finish group, and there was a discussion about which committee it should sit in, which is why it's now in front of us in overview and scrutiny. So I think there's already been an agreement somewhere else that this becomes a task and finish group, and obviously I would support that. Just a couple of examples. I mean, I think that extra column, I think perhaps I take on board what you're saying about the bit not being in the forward plan. Perhaps a more appropriate place would be in the action plan to have that extra column. As an example, I keep hearing that there will be a review of the public toilets. In the action plan, it says delivery of a refurbishment improvement plan for council operated public toilets, capital improvement work and engagement with all councillors on local toilets, and any ideas on multi-use of sites. And I think what Councillor Yardy wants to know is when we need to have got that feedback ready for, so that we can feed into that review of public toilets, and therefore it be an effective engagement. So there is no date put on that. I don't know when that's going to happen. I don't know when I need to speak to my parish councils by, etc. So that's just an example.
Of course. Can I ask a question? Because that seems to be really relevant. So you've got that from the council plan, effectively. So that's perfect, because you're a ward member. You're not on the executive, therefore there's no reason why you should know about it from executive meetings. You found it on the council plan, and that is a perfect question, therefore, of something that's going to affect all wards. So that's where you would argue that the consultation and engagement bit should be going, exactly there. I mean, that seems to sum that up really well, because by the time it gets to the forward plan, presumably a lot of those discussions happen. You're still getting what you want, I think, Jed, in that regard, but that is a really good example of where actually we need to be, all members need to be looking at the council plan rather than the forward plan. And I think it's easy to look at the forward plan if you're sad enough to read the agenda papers or the ONS papers, because you get them sent. You get the forward plan sent all the time. Forward plan's always coming out, but actually you've got to go to the council plan, haven't you? So there's I'm going to listen to whatever the task and finish support and recommend at, to the executive, and I'm grateful to Councillor Yardy for the work he's put in. It's also, as deputy leader, my job to make sure that senior officers are content as well. So I, as always, have a fine path to tread, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Birch, and then I want to close this item, please.
I think it's really important to make certain that that we're clear as to what this consultation engagement strategy is for. It is not it is for consultation engagement with our residents and with community groups. It is not a consultation, an internal consultation with members. This policy, this strategy was it was a request from, at that time, the executive to ONS to come up with a consultation engagement strategy for key projects that are going to be taking place throughout the district. In other words, it is not for every action that we as a council take. It's for specific projects or specific activities. It's not for all and everything. And I think that we need to remember that. In other words, it's not internal, it's external, and it's not for every decision that this council takes. It's for specific projects or activities. And I think that's how the document was produced on that premise. And I think we must keep to that. Otherwise, it'll just get out of control.
Thank you very much for that. So we can see the recommendations in front of us, 1, 2 and 3. Is everybody happy with that? Is that a seconder? Proposer? Yeah, Councillor Owen proposes it. Second? Councillor Dennett, was that a seconder or not? What
Doesn't
do you
the
want to
third
come back in on?
recommendation sort of negate the second recommendation?
Well, I actually did say that to Amelia. I thought number 3 should be where number 2 is, and number 2 should be at the bottom. And Amelia did suggest, she agreed with me, but she hasn't changed it. Whereas Darryl would have been so much quicker to have actually done it.
I think it's a technical problem.
Yeah, because I've got to take the lead out.
You see, it's
harsh, Chair.
We're having a technical hitch. We're having a technical hitch.
I'm working with very limited resources.
We're going to have to get the OHP out in a minute.
But I can quickly make.
I've got some Tipex in my bag if you want some. So we're going to. Oh, it's all gone now altogether.
The lead has got to be taken out. Just then, it's the projection of the, the screen.
Right, okay. So if everybody's happy with that, we put 2 where 3 is and the other way around. Everybody happy? Yeah, okay.
And they said, by magic.
Right. Jed, can I thank you very much for all the hard work and effort? And at the task and finish group, will there be nibbles and drinks like that as on the photograph?
So, Chair, can I be clear then that Amelia, who's doing a fantastic job, thank you,
She always does a fantastic job.
will canvass for names for the task and finish group, and then we will progress from there.
Correct.
Can we include officers?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Have we moved the items around? No, not yet. Okay, thank you very much for that. Right, okay, now moving to item 11, task and finish group updates. Hunting on council land, task and finish group.